What's going on, everyone? Episode 66 of Locker Talk Live. And then today, got to rep the Tide because, man, we got to talk about this tie situation that happened this past week in the NFL last few games, but definitely the last game of the regular season. Yesterday we had the national championship, Georgia getting the win. We'll talk about that. And we'll talk about some high school stuff as we normally do. We're kind of shifting as Texas high school football ends, kind of shift into a more kind of leisurely first show of the week that we do every week, where we kind of will get more into maybe a little bit of college, maybe a little pros, maybe a little bit of life, whatever that may be. But before we do that, got to bring in my co-host for today. It is Scott. Scott, you've been missing for a few weeks. Came down under the weather last week, which is why you couldn't join us. But man, how you doing? How was your Christmas? How was your New Year's? All that stuff.
Yeah, man, it's been good. We were a little down and out at my household over the holiday season, but we are back. We are hashtag back and ready to roll for 2022. Feeling good, feeling healthy, so can't really complain, man. Just rock and rolling here. VYPE, ton going on in the sports world in general, as well as the high school world, because football might be over in the high school world, but now we're already in the district play in basketball. We have our baseball softball photo shoot less than a week from now, so we got baseball softball right around the corner. It doesn't stop here. Grind, don't stop. Throw it back to you, J-Dub. How are you doing, my man?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Actually, as I told Shannon this last week, celebrate Christmas one more time this past week. So, we do
What?
like yeah, so we do Christmas at my grandma's usually like a week or two before Christmas. Really depends on where Christmas falls. We'll usually do it like the Sunday before Christmas, unless like Christmas on like a Monday or Tuesday or whatever. But she was under the weather, earlier when we were supposed to have it, so we postponed it to January. So went and saw my grandma, had some, got a couple more gifts. So always good to celebrate Christmas a little later than usual. So I got to see, the nieces and
Absolutely.
nephews and all that. So it was a really good time there. And now we're back. Like you said, man, basketball playoffs are right around the corner, man. I mean, we just it's one of those crazy things because as soon as like state football ends, you kind of get that Christmas reprieve, and then bam, all of a sudden you're in the middle of January, and basketball is almost is the playoffs is almost here, and we're kind of talking about it, like for instance, Westlake only one loss on the season, and they're just now getting some of their players because as some of those players were on the championship team, and so some of these players are just now getting finding a rhythm, and that could spell trouble for people that have to play them. So, but I want to get in. Obviously, you see me wearing the tie. Let's talk about this tie situation, man. This is one of the crazier things that may have happened, and you kind of wonder if yes, it didn't happen, and so there's that. But you wonder if maybe NFL looks at changing the overtime rules so that there is a clear winner going forward, so something like this doesn't happen, where going into that Sunday night game between the Raiders and Chargers, all they had to do was kneel the ball every single time, and both of them get in the playoffs. Luckily, no one got hurt, as far as we know. But it's kind of like almost a bye week, if you will. None of these teams we're going to get the one seed. We knew that. I mean, really, if you're the Raiders, the only thing the Raiders really can say is we didn't want to play the Chiefs, right? Because if that's a tie, they play the Chiefs. If they won, they play the Bengals. Now they lost to both of these teams pretty badly, and the Chiefs they lost to them twice pretty badly. So I can get the reasoning by not wanting to play the Chiefs, if you were a tie. But Scott, what do you think? Should both of these teams have knelt it down? And then towards the end of the game too, it looked like after that 2 minute warning, it really looked like for those first two plays, the Raiders were content with trying like a 60-yard field goal just to see, right? And if they missed, well then oh well, we still make the playoffs. Chargers call a timeout. Now that they say is to get the right personnel in, blah blah blah. Well, then they come out of the timeout, and then they didn't even have their key kind of key linebacker in for running plays. So it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. What do you think about all this, Scott?
It was crazy. It was wild. I can't really think of another way to say it. It was like a fun house full of mirrors, like with everything that was going on with the playoff scenarios. Like, oh, you look this way, sliding over there. It was pretty outrageous. And the fact that they didn't tie, like, you got to give the people what they want. At the end of the day, the NFL is an entertainment product. Give the people what they want. A tie would have been so legendary. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. You even see videos of the players meeting afterwards. Hey, were y'all gonna run the clock out? Yeah. You're Justin Herbert say I've never wanted to tie so bad in my life, because as a competitor, the worst thing that you can do is tie. You would rather lose than tie. Obviously, you want to win, but when you lose, you learn more about yourself, about the team, build character, blah blah blah, all that jazz. But a tie is the worst. It's like kissing a pig. It's just terrible.
well, well,
So,
let's put a little
but all those
asterisk.
guys wanted it. It was just
Let's
hilarious.
put an asterisk on that. If you play like sports like soccer, ties are okay every now and then, right? It's like one of those weird
It's
things
still
where.
terrible. Well, that's because this is America, baby. We don't care about soccer. I
Well,
mean, we care about soccer, but not in the way that the Europeans do.
not in the way that everyone else in the entire world does, right? But yeah, you bring up
Fair,
that point with
but
I think it was Eckler, and I think he was talking actually to the long snapper. Now we can't see what the long snapper says, right? It's not clear what he says, but the long snapper says something.
he nods his head.
Yeah, he says something, and then Eckler says really, and then this long snapper nods his head yes, and then you see kind of Eckler like, oh man. So it kind of plays into the theory that the long snapper was saying like, hey, we weren't going to try and get any more yards. I would have thought like they would have kicked a long field goal just to see, right? But man, like that. I hate that because just
Tough.
like I may not be like a Chargers fan, but I enjoy watching Justin Herbert play, and man, what a
Yeah, the Chargers were rolling at one point in the season too, and then they had some bad losses, most notably to the Houston Texans a week or two ago. So haven't they could have controlled their own destiny getting to the playoffs, and they had some big losses coming down the stretch where they frankly should have won those games. So it's tough. Yes, it would have been awesome to see Justin Herbert in the playoffs. But then again, on the flip side, Ben Roethlisberger gets to play another week for it was probably his last game at Heinz Field this week, and so we get to see Big Ben in the playoffs one more time. See if he can recapture any magic, and then also T.J. Watt, man, because that guy dominates on the defensive side of the ball.
yeah, more so for T.J. Watt than Big Ben. I mean, he's gonna go what 8 for 20 for
Najee Harris, dude, like
67 yards is what Ben.
I don't know.
He's having
Don't
that.
sleep on the Steelers.
He's having that Peyton Manning last season where you can just tell his arm is just not there anymore. But yeah, definitely feel. But you mentioned the Texans. The Texans had a pretty good last few weeks of the season. Uh, you know, I don't know what's going to happen with the team. The team's still a mess, but there was some fight. There was some fight in them. I mean, they took the Titans to the limit, who's now the number one seed in the AFC. I don't. I
I think
hear.
the Titans were sitting some guys, but you're definitely right. A lot of people here in the Houston area are almost low key buying the Texans. Like, if you're going to buy low, sell high, people are buying the Texans right now because people are saying that Davis Mills made huge strides at the quarterback position, because we haven't really talked a lot about it because we don't want to. But Deshaun Watson still on the Texans payroll, or he's part of the organization. I don't know if he's on the payroll, but he's part of the organization. But he didn't play a snap this year because Davis Mills stepped in at quarterback after Tyrod Taylor went down. Davis Mills, there's an argument that could be made that he was the best rookie quarterback out of the draft this year over Jordan Love, over Zach Wilson, over anybody. So I don't know about that. Honestly, I haven't really been paying attention too much because I've been paying attention more to high school athletics. But people are buying on the Texans right now, and we have the third pick of the draft, so we get a couple more draft picks, few good free agent signees. You could be in the mix in a year or two.
It will be interesting to see what the Texans decide to do. Obviously, I think they'll end up trading Watson. We'll see what they get out of that. But I mean,
Yeah,
there's not really a big name quarterback, and I mean, I think the Pittsburgh quarterback is probably the most high. It's probably the one that's going to go first. I would assume. I think it just kind of I
yeah.
don't know
And
all
if you're the
the.
Texans, with it being a weaker draft class, they don't need a quarterback in that third pick. So go get in my opinion, probably the best. I mean, I haven't done any research on it yet, but the best person available. The Texans were such a disaster that they were so gross. They were so bad that you need the best player available because you have so many positions that need to be addressed. Go get the best player available.
Couple more NFL points I want to bring up before we move on, kind of down the chain, if you will. Why did the Dolphins fire Brian Flores? I mean, they started the season bad, but finished the season on 8-1. They were absolutely rolling. Yes, they didn't make the playoffs, but I mean, you have to love what Brian Flores have been doing with the Dolphins the last 2 seasons. Is that a mistake by the Dolphins?
Yes, Twitter was a firestorm yesterday trying to figure out why Brian Flores was fired. And to be honest, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know much about like the Dolphins organization, like if people like ownership or anything like that. So maybe there was just some bad blood between owner. You know, some people just don't get along. It's like oil and water; they just grind each other wrong, and it's like sandpaper when you're rubbing up against. It just doesn't happen. So maybe something like that. I don't know, but yeah, some big firings. You know, Mike Zimmer, Matt Nagy, Brian Flores. Man, people were upset about Brian Flores, and I don't blame them because the Dolphins were hashtag trending.
How does Joe Judge still have a job? He QB sneaked it on 3rd and 9. Like
Dude,
what?
such a power play.
How does he still have a job?
It was such a power play, dude. He was like, "My job is so safe. I'm gonna QB sneak it on 3rd and 9." How awesome is that? He was like, "Hey guys, it doesn't matter." Uh, I think it's kind of like college. Well, it's not like college, but you got to give at least a few years, in my opinion, to figure out if a guy works within an organization. Whether it be it's a new general manager, new ownership, all those things matter because you want their guy. But like Matt Rule was potentially on the hot seat down in Carolina, but that was the first hire for the new ownership that came in a couple years ago. So it generally takes, and we see this in the college game, 3 years to get your people, your guys there to buy into the culture that you are trying to set. So that's why I think Joe Judge has a job. But dude, that guy's seat is flaming hot right now. It's like blue and white flames hot at the moment.
Hey, you know what? That's fine. You keep him. That's fine by me as a Cowboys fan. I'm all for having Joe Judge as the head coach. One more NFL kind of topic I want to mention is
Hey man,
did
hey man,
what's
how
up?
far did the Cowboys make it?
They're in the playoffs. Oh, how far?
I know, but like how far?
I mean, look, they're gonna have a tough one in round one for sure. That I'm more confident in the Cowboys secondary than I am their front. Even with how good their front is, they've been a little susceptible to the run, which we saw on Sunday. And we've seen through the season the Niners have been pretty good on, but
Hmm.
I think they have a good shot on this one, right? I think it plays into their favor. A lot of people said why, you kind of wonder why weren't the Cowboys maybe resting their players a little more? They didn't really have anything to play for. Well, turned out, now granted they have to win on Sunday, but they would avoid Green Bay until potentially, in a NFC Championship game if both teams made it that far, and so that's good for them, right? So by moving up from the 4 seed to the 3 seed, so there's not as much doubt because obviously if they had remained the 4 seed, they'd be playing the Cardinals. So there's not as much kind of doubt because as we know the Cardinals beat the Cowboys just a couple of weeks ago. So I think it's gonna be a good matchup. I mean, this is a matchup we haven't seen in the playoffs since the '90s. All right, right. I mean, I was heading towards my teens during that time when the Cowboys were making their little run. Their last Super Bowl runs. Those three championships in 4 years. So I was right there as a young fan, just cheering them on.
Kind of
So
dating yourself there, Josh.
hey, I'm an old man. I am an old man. I'm not afraid to say it. So it's gonna be a good matchup. I'm excited for it. I think the Cowboys have some stuff to work on. A lot of people have been pointing this out, and I feel it's absolutely true. I do feel the Cowboys probably are going to lose in the playoffs at some point because of Greg Zuerlein. There's a stat. He's missed either an extra point or a field goal in at least half of his games. Half. You're guaranteed going into a game. There's a 50% chance that Greg Zuerlein's going to miss something, and that's dangerous if you're especially now in the playoffs. You need a kicker in the play. I mean, look at the Raiders there. The Raiders won that game because of their field goal kicker. Like you can't say that you can't say that with 100% confidence with the Cowboys kicker. So I would hope they can get.
Bro, I didn't realize 3 NFC West teams made it.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
Wow,
yeah, it
that's
was.
impressive.
Yeah, and it was almost three AFC West teams as well, right? So you almost had the Raiders, Chargers, and Chiefs getting in, but of course they didn't end in a tie because they're stupid.
The
And
tie, give them the tie.
it all comes back to the time, man. But you know what? I'll make a little prediction. Say the Cowboys make at least an NFC Championship game. I'm going in on saying that.
Ooh,
I'm going big
man,
here.
what a rematch from
But
hashtag Des caught it.
but they could easily lose this Sunday. I'm not gonna lie. They could easily lose this Sunday. But I'm gonna say they may at least make the NFC Championship game. And hey, you know what I would love even more if they made the NFC Championship game and the Packers weren't there. but
I
last thing is, did the Eagles really get the steal of the kind of the season by trading Carson Wentz, and then the Colts don't even make the playoffs? I mean, they absolutely just turned in a stinker against the Jaguars.
Yeah, that was the other big headline. People were saying the Colts playoff team. Can't believe that. Wait, you know what? They're not, because they didn't make it. I heard Sean Salisbury here on 790 here in Houston say that, and he's 100% correct. You had a chance, and if you win, you win. If you win, you're in. And they lost to the Jags, who still have the number one pick again in this draft after drafting Trevor Lawrence. They don't have their head coach. They're just a motley crew of characters, and you blew it. I don't know who else to say. They just blew it. They had every chance. Carson Wentz was on an MVP playing level not too long ago, and ever since then, ever since he got hurt, he has not been the same quarterback. And it's tough because it would have been really fun. And he was having a better season, so I want to give him – I don't want to completely take a dump on him here. But he was playing better than what he was in Philly, but it would have been pretty cool to see the Colts, and particularly Jonathan Taylor, to see how far he could have taken the Colts in the playoffs. But you had your chance, and you blew it. Stinks to stink.
Well, NFL playoffs are this weekend, as we know, and man, I can't wait.
Am I wrong?
What's that? No, I think you're right on. Well, I will say that does help that he has Jonathan Taylor, who should be an MVP front runner. I mean, that the dude's an absolute beast, but that
So
definitely
is
helped
that
wins.
bad man in Green
Oh
Bay,
yeah,
though.
oh yeah. No lie there. But of course, I don't know, man. You know what though? I mean, Green Bay.
No, dude, it's Aaron Rodgers. Come
Well,
on.
but here's the thing. Here's the thing about Green Bay. You have Aaron Rodgers, but then who else do you have, right? So if you can,
Doesn't matter.
well, you say that though, but they've lost some games that they could have won. And look, you say that doesn't matter. He hasn't won he hasn't won a Super Bowl in what, 12 years, 10 years, something like that. So it does matter. At the end of the bad man can only get you so far,
That
right?
doesn't make him not the MVP, though.
Oh no, I'm
That
not. I
makes
don't
it
want to.
harder
I
to
don't.
win in the playoffs.
I don't. Yeah, I don't want. No, I'm not. I'm talking about the playoffs. I think.
Oh, okay.
I think
I was talking regular season MVP.
no.
Like, there's no doubt he's the MVP this year, in my mind at least. But yeah, winning in the playoffs, totally different ball game. It really is. We saw that especially. You know who comes to mind in that regard? At least for a little bit, it was Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning used to dominate the regular season, and then he would always run into Tom Brady and the New England Patriots, etc. Finally got over that hump eventually. But Dan Marino, another great example. All-time quarterback, just couldn't get it done. So playoffs is a totally different ballgame.
I mean, especially because you look. I mean, you look just a couple of weeks ago, they barely squeaked by the Ravens, and that was without Lamar Jackson. And I think in the second round, you're going to face either the Rams or the Cardinals. It's there for the taking for some of these teams. So going to be very interesting to see. Again, just what happens. I love sports. Anyways, let's move on to college. Move on down a peg, and let's talk about college. Last night, of course, as we know, the national championship game, Alabama, Georgia, and a very somewhat different game from the first meeting. Obviously, it was different because Georgia won. Did they win despite Stetson? I mean, he had, in my opinion, I rarely have takes like this, but to me, he had one good drive. It was that one drive where it was basically all passes. They scored the touchdown on the defensive offsides where it was a free play, so there's no pressure on them. And then Alabama goes and they score again to take the lead, and the next drive, Georgia just uses their run. Did they win despite him? Not saying he had a bad game, right? But I mean, up until mid third quarter, early fourth quarter, he was the issue for the Georgia offense. I felt like. What do you think? Am I wrong here?
It was almost a tale of two halves, just in general, because that first half, fairly uneventful. I don't know if uneventful is the right word to say it, or low scoring. It was definitely low scoring. And then the second half started putting some points on the board. But it's not necessarily due because of Stetson Bennett. That Alabama defense, I think, is that good, generally. I mean, you see that first place, he looks like he is running for his life. trying to get it done. And then now it kind of felt like it would have been in spite of Stetson Bennett. Whenever that not fumble was called a fumble, and then Alabama scored, right? So, and then here's why they won, not despite him, because yes, it might not have been a bad drive, but dude, as a quarterback, you're in the fourth quarter national championship game. You are trying to get over the hump of beating Alabama. Kirby Smart has never beaten Alabama until last night, and then Stetson Bennett takes his team down. He is the leader and the captain of that offense. Takes that ship down, scores that touchdown, and then yes, the running game was good, but that team doesn't respond back unless it's the way that Stetson Bennett responds back, because he messed up, but then recovered and took his team down the touchdown, and then eventually led him to victory. So I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, the Alabama defense is so good, and there are just so many playmakers across the board. But at the end of the day, who is the person who gets the ball in their hand every single play? It's the quarterback, the leader of the team. Stetson Bennett is a major factor in why Georgia won.
I would say a factor. I don't know major. I mean, look, he made some key throws from the kind of, especially on that drive. But again,
he looked good.
But again, he looked good on that drive.
It took him 3 quarters to get there.
Exactly, and that's my point. Like sometimes,
but that's Alabama.
And again, we don't.
Bryce Young didn't. The Heisman Trophy winner did not look good those first 3 quarters either. Come on.
Well, look, we say that, and Alabama put up 40 burger on, or A&M put a 40 burger on them when they beat Alabama, right? So it's not. There's look, at the end of the day, they won.
Different stakes.
At the end of the day, they won, right? And can't take that away from him. But I feel like that there are some times where you like, man, you kind of wonder if there should there have been a change of quarterback. It'll be interesting to see, because I mean, if Daniels, okay, how about this?
JT Daniels,
if he hold on, if he comes back next year, right, and Daniels is there, you think he starts again?
I don't know, because it's next year. But when it's this year, you got to roll with the guy who got you there. You got to roll with the guy.
I mean, you say that because Saban.
I know. Wait. I know where you're going. The only person who didn't do that, and it happened to work out, was Alabama a couple years ago against the Georgia Bulldogs.
But you know what?
Jalen Hurts that was not the same. Jalen Hurts looked like he could barely look down, 10 yards down the field. It looked like that game. Like Stetson Bennett was at least making some throws in that first half.
I mean, he made that one throw in the first. But anyways, regardless, I think the biggest.
Dicey.
I think the biggest improvement was obviously the Georgia defense. Yes, Alabama was able to move the ball, but they came with field goals and not touchdowns, and I think that was obviously the difference. Now, it definitely helped that they had basically their 2 top receivers out. One was out the whole game. One was out. Midway through the first or second quarter. That definitely helps.
Yeah,
right.
I did see that was like Alabama fans complaining about injury, and then you swiped right, and it was Colt McCoy.
Oh, don't
put the headset on.
That hurts my feelings, man. I mean, look,
that was funny.
We win that game if Colt stays healthy, 100%. I'm not. I don't doubt that. But anyways, let's. Hey, congratulations to Baylor, by the way, still undefeated. They are rolling right now. So
Sugar Bowl champs, baby.
Well, and basketball
Sugar Bowl
too.
Champs.
Undefeated so far, if I'm not mistaken, in the regular or right now in basketball. So, Baylor's rolling right now.
Top 10 women's basketball program too. Like, it's a good Baylor athletics. Good times right now. Really good times.
Baylor football and basketball.
Baylor athletics. It's an athletic program. You have tennis, who's a top 5 team in the country. Baylor golf is a top 15 team in the country.
You laughed at me. You laughed at me. You laughed at me when I pointed out the obvious fact that Texas was the best athletic program in the country last year. It's a straight fact.
They have the biggest budget in the country.
See that. So there you go. So you're trying to, I'm only pointing out some facts here. You're trying to. Anyways, let's move on to some high school. As we know, football is over.
Here's the thing.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Baylor,
I'll let you go.
Baylor men's basketball has lost, I want to say 6 games in the last 3 years, something like that. The men's program is on fire right now. Will we win the national championship? I don't know, because that March Madness is like, I think I have a better chance of winning the lottery sometimes than figuring out who's going to win the March Madness tournament, especially in January. So let's pump the brakes a little bit.
I mean, really good. How long has it been since there's been a back-to-back champion? It's been a while, right?
2006, 2007, Florida,
Yeah. So I mean, it's
and then
hard to
before
do.
that it was like 40 years.
Yeah,
So
so it's hard to do. Hard to do.
it
Let's move.
is.
Let's move on to the football as we know, or not football. Let's move on to high school as we know. Football is over. We did have some commitments this past week. In that kind of Central Texas game, if you will, in San Antonio. And now we are on to basketball. Basketball, by the way, if you follow us on social medias, we released our Austin and San Antonio, and I don't DFW is coming. I just don't know when. It could be out. I'm not too sure. Boston San Antonio updated rankings are out today for our VYPE insiders. They'll be out tomorrow for everyone else. Um, but man, basketball's looking good. There are some good teams out there. From me and Shane talking in the Austin, San Antonio, and DFW realm. Sure, Houston as well. What have you been seeing in Houston for basketball, Scott?
Yeah, I mean, Houston basketball is solid. I would say the Metroplex. I was looking at rankings this morning. The Metroplex, really good basketball. I mean, they got some really good basketball up there with McKinney, Richardson, Timberview, Duncanville. Like the list goes on. So, but we saw a lot of good teams down here in Houston. We were talking about football season and basketball season. We grind don't stop here at VYPE Media because over the holiday break we had the VYPE Holiday Classic. Got to see some of the premier teams in the Houston area, some of the better ones in this area, and Westfield. The Westfield Mustangs come out on top, taking down the Tascasita in that championship game. Zion Pipkin, 2024 guard, transferred from TWCA to Westfield, is balling out right now for Westfield. So Westfield is definitely a team to look out for in the Houston area. Now, kind of like in football, though, Westfield is in Region 2 from Houston. Who else is in Region 2? Duncanville. So they'll have to eventually face Duncanville coming out of Region 6 if they make it that far. Atascocita is in Region 3, so they have a little bit better chance because they made it out of Region 3 last year to the state semis. So Atascocita got another really good chance, in my opinion, to make it out of Region 3 into the basketball state championship. So TWCA on the private school ranks, they've won back-to-back state championships as well. One in TAPS 4A and then TAPS 5A. They lost to Westfield in that semifinal game by 1 point. So TWCA definitely one of the favorites to win the TAPS 5A crown.
And that's always good about those kind of tournaments. You really get to kind of test yourself, see where you stand, and even challenge yourself. I'll say, and I said this last week, that there's kind of the two teams I'm really looking at as we move from district into playoffs are going to be Westlake, like I said, who just got some players, off of that football team, and who have only have one loss in the season, I believe, to Duncanville, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to look on that. I could be wrong on that. And then undefeated in the women's ranks, Cedar Park, the defending 5A state champion. They
Who?
have been Cedar Park.
Okay.
So they are rolling so far, carrying on from last year. Haven't.
Hey, do you remember when I predicted that score pretty much perfectly
Yes.
last year? You should go back to Byte.com and check out like the game preview of Cedar Park, and I'm pretty sure I was like 1 point off. And Josh texted me, he was like, "You're the Texas high school girls basketball whisperer, apparently."
Oh man, but yeah, so they are doing good, and I saw an interesting stat, and I got to look at their district record. I haven't seen it in the last few days, but I think they're still undefeated. They haven't lost a district game in over 40 games, so absolutely rolling.
Wow.
Yeah, so Cedar Park absolutely rolling. So
Yeah,
is Westlake.
DeSoto is another good one.
DeSoto, yep, DeSoto.
Yeah, they have what, 7 D1 commits on their team right now? That is unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to in the playoffs, hopefully a potential rematch between them and Duncanville. They played earlier this year already, and I think it was a 3-point win for DeSoto. So, that's going to be a good one if they can play each other again. So basketball is up and rolling. And we'll be talking about it more. I think usually, I think, like I said, we're going to be trying to do a Monday, Wednesday, Friday shows going forward, with Monday kind of being a more just general laid back show and Wednesday being a more centric show. We'll do that starting here in a couple of weeks or so, just because I know I'll be gone this Friday and next Friday. So we all got some stuff going on. So, and then Friday, I don't want to announce it yet, but we do have a Friday kind of show kind of lined up, but I don't want to give away what it is yet. We're still fine tuning some details. Me and
Not yet.
What's that? Yeah, me and my co-host. That's a little surprise. So
We can.
just a little tease for you. But hey,
All right.
anything else before we get out of here today, Scott?
No, man, I think we covered pretty much most of it here. You mentioned VYPE Holiday Classic turned out really well. Football, 2 out of the 3, high school and college wrapped up. Now we just got the NFL to wrap up, and then before we know it, we'll have March Madness here and football state championships going around. So also, I saw Lethal Enforcer Soccer drop their rankings. So some really good teams. Soccer as well. We don't stop with just the major sports. We cover everybody here. But yeah, that's all I got, Josh. Thanks everybody for tuning in.
Well, I mean, we're not done yet because, of course, we can't
Oh, my
go out
bad.
of here without.
Uh-oh.
That's right. It is. Who's that mascot? Can't let you go without doing this segment, especially without Shayna here. Time to see how test your true metal, if you will. Shayna's not
Oh
here
no.
to back you up anymore. So
Uh-oh.
you've done well the last few weeks, but of course Shayna was kind of there backing you up. So are you ready?
Let's say Shane has done well the last few weeks.
There you go.
Yeah.
Your first one, Scott, is Corpus Christi Miller.
Where's the music?
I don't know. It's not playing on me. There we go.
There it is. I'm feeling the pressure now. I'm feeling the heat. Corpus Christi Miller.
Yep.
Uh,
Would you like a hint?
the Corpus Christi Miller Mustangs.
Mustangs, is that your final answer?
Yes.
You are incorrect. The Buccaneers.
Mm,
The Buccaneers.
Buccaneers.
My hint
Yeah,
was
that
gonna
was
be
not on the radar.
yeah. My hint was gonna be it's an NFL team. So, your next one. This
Okay.
one you should get. Fort Bend Ridge Point.
Oh, I do know this one. The Ridge Point Panthers.
Panthers. Is that your final answer?
That is my final answer.
That is correct. The Fort Bend Ridge Point Panthers.
Let's go.
1 for 2 so far. Moving into our last one, and your last one is San Antonio Warren.
Oh, unbelievable. They've been on our rankings and whatnot. I'm gonna say Warren Wildcats.
Wildcats. Is that your final answer?
Wildcrats.
Final answer is incorrect. It is the Warriors. So
Warriors.
starting off the year, moving back to you are 1 for 3. So
Still a Hall of Famer.
still Hall of Famer. That's right. Well, let's move on to the final segment of the show. That is, of course, One Good Thing. One Good Thing is a segment where we tell you one good thing that's happening, whether it's sports related, life related, what have you. So, Scott, give us one good thing.
Oh man, I usually try to come prepared with this, but I have not come prepared with my one good thing. Man, I don't know. Josh, can you go first?
Yes, I can. My one good thing
Okay.
is the return of Cobra Kai. Cobra Kai season 4 dropped last week, and man, I binged that so fast. Such a good show, right? You know, it started. It's probably the most successful what YouTube Red show because it season 1 came out on YouTube Red, and then Netflix picked it up after that. It's been on Netflix ever since, and man, just what a great show that it's been. I love every season. I've basically binged season 1 through season 4 just to catch up. And man, if you have not checked out Cobra Kai, which is, if you don't know, it is basically a kind of I wouldn't call it TV show. It's a limited series show kind of thing on Netflix, 10 episodes a season, and it kind of picks off, present day from where the Karate Kid ended, right? So Karate Kid, if you don't know, you got Mr. Miyagi and LaRusso. Daniel LaRusso and the whole karate, thing going on. Loved it back in the 80s, and now it's back and better than ever. And man, if you haven't watched it, check it out. It's nostalgia overload, and I love it. Scotty, what's yours?
Dude, I love that because Cobra Kai does a really good job of balancing the old and the new. That's one of the knocks on remakes and revamps and continuing on series and whatnot. It is they tend to rely too much on the past, but Cobra Kai does a really good job of balancing it. No spoilers, Josh. I have not finished Cobra Kai yet.
No spoilers, man. But man, you got to get on. It's great. It's great. Sets up
I'm
for.
like,
I'll say sets up for a
Four
great
episodes
season
in.
5. I'll say sets up for a great season 5, and I don't even want to spoil it for people that maybe haven't even watched it at all. Just the people they bring in, right, from the past movies. It's great. Definitely check it out. Scotty,
Okay.
what's yours?
Oh, I mean, one good thing that's going on. Oh my gosh, I'm like totally blanking right now. Like, 'cause there's a lot of good things going on. It's hard to choose from one. Um, I mean, kind of a big thing. I don't know. My wife and I are having a baby.
I was about to
I
bring
don't know
that
if
up.
that's public knowledge or not.
When's that happening? When's the due date?
I forgot. I can't remember if I said if I that on the show or
I don't
not.
think
But
you have. No.
yeah, that April
When's the due date?
April 4th,
April 4th. All right. Maybe it'll be a few days.
24th.
24th. I said, okay. You kind of broke
Yeah.
up there for a second. Well, hey, right around the corner, man. I mean, that's definitely one good thing. So
Yeah,
again,
man, it's a one good thing. It's pretty wild.
well,
But
hey,
we're super pumped.
of course I said it to you in person, but congratulations on that once again.
Ah, thank you.
So, but yeah, that will do it for our show today. One thing we'll have to mention before we get out of here, if you don't follow us on social medias, you want to do that. One of the things we've just started, by the way, is called VYPE Next Gen. It is kind of where we bring in special guests. Well, we had David Hicks Jr. on last week. And it was on our Instagram. So it's an Instagram live where we just bring on some of these athletes and just talk to them. So that one's actually it was on our Instagram. We're gonna be posting it on our YouTube. So if you did miss it, you'll get to catch up. And announced just yesterday, our next Instagram live VYPE Next Gen is gonna be January 13th at 7 p.m. It's gonna be Mabry Maytowers from the Woodlands. So
Metalier.
there you go. I
Mabry Metalier.
there you go. So definitely want to check that out again. It's on our VYPE Houston page. Jackson Di Pasquale. I hope I'm saying that right. Our new one of our new VYPE employees. He's hosting that show. Matt is there every now and then, so I think Matt's going to be he's kind of the co-host, if you will. So check those out. Scotty, go ahead and plug those social medias for us.
Hey, everybody, follow us on social media at VYPE Houston on Instagram and Twitter at VYPE Texas on Facebook. Since you're here on YouTube, go and click that subscribe button and go sign up to be a VYPE Insider, bringing content, rankings, interviews, the whole 9 yards. Sign up to be a VYPE Insider so you have access to all of the good stuff here at VYPE Media. So I'll be uploading the podcast version too afterwards. So yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in.
That's right. You can listen to it on Spotify on your ride home if you didn't catch it here. I love listening to the sports stuff when I drive. So hey, it's perfect thing to listen to on your ride home, especially with all this traffic. So thanks for joining us this week. Probably only one show this week. We'll try and maybe do 2 next week. We'll see how things play out. But hey, until then, we'll see you at the games. Everyone, have a great one.
Peace.